Welcome everyone, namaste. Our work with Sanskrit, which we've been doing for the last 7 years, on Auroville's birthday and the mother's birthday in this week, I thought it was an opportune time to share with the community. And already there's a number of institutions worldwide and people that we collaborate with. So the work is very much so a public work. It's about making knowledge accessible and getting things out there. And the presentation is called 7 Years in the Woods of Sanskrit. Because we started this work in 2010. The work started from a personal quest where I had been the son of a doctor, who was a very fine physician, and he instilled a very deep love for medicine. And from that love of medicine, I was curious about traditional medicine, and from my curiosity with traditional medicine, I became interested in Ayurveda in 1999. And from my interest in Ayurveda, I had no choice but to encounter Sanskrit, because the literature in Ayurveda is detailed in much elaboration in a language called Sanskrit. And I was able to become familiar with the terms, like probably many people who dabble in yoga or Jyotisha or any of the different sciences or traditional knowledge systems that have come from India. But I really wanted to go deeper. So what I did was I enrolled in university, and I've just finished the 5th year of the postgraduate research that I've been doing at university. And while I was learning myself, I wanted to give back to the greater community. And from that thought was born a project called Sanskrit Research Institute. It's called SRI, or SRI, S-R-I. And the 7 years is this journey. And this is our organization. It's founded in 2010. And we're a project of SIA, which is founded in 1984. This is a broad spectrum of educational research that's ongoing in Auroville. And we collaborate with my project from the UK, which is called Vedic Society also, which I started in 2002, largely focused on Ayurveda, which is the traditional medical knowledge system of India. And some of our team members are here. This is Sharanya Rao and Sashka Sekoloska. And there are a few more permanent and temporary and coming and going team members. And all of them have been drawn to the work through a love of, or a curiosity of Sanskrit. And it seems that they've enjoyed themselves. And that's also been part of the beauty of the work is sharing it with others. And I'm going to talk about how we've shared our love for Sanskrit with the greater community of the world. So these are my mentors, Professor Ramanath Sharma. He's a great grammarian from Kashi, and he has been twice to Auroville. He's been very closely guiding and helping us on many levels, and sharing a lot of his wisdom, which spans not just his lifespan, but it goes back many generations of his traditional family that were Sanskrit scholars. And then this is my professor, Dr. Taylor. Lakshmi Tatachar was one of my inspirations. He's a Sanskritist from Melkote, from a very traditional family where they grow up educating and speaking in Sanskrit in the home. So every time I travel to Mysore, I spend time with him, and we have a deep collaboration. And Dr. Krishna has been guiding me on the Ayurvedic side of this work. Auroville and Sanskrit are actually very much deeply one thing, because Sri Aurobindo and the mother both believe very strongly in the power of Sanskrit, the spiritual power, and also the power as a language. And it's actually one of the official languages of Auroville. You will see a lot of the signs if you go to the health clinic are actually written in Sanskrit. If you go to town hall, you'll see there are occasional signs. I think Vladimir has done them. The mother said Sanskrit ought to be the national language of India. Now, she was born in France, but she knew through her inner awareness of the depth and the profundity of Sanskrit. And of course, Sri Aurobindo was even deeper in Sanskrit, and he has said the great mass of Sanskrit literature is the literature of human life. And this was really an inspiration for doing this work in Auroville, because I don't think there's a better place to work in the field of Sanskrit research. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of what we did. It's spanning 7 years, and there's actually a lot more work that I'm going to present. If you're curious, you can come to me afterwards, or one of the team, and we'll tell you. I'm just really going to take you on a journey, like a train journey, and we're going to be stopping along the way, and sharing with you the different projects we did and why we did them. I assume everyone is slightly familiar, or some of you are more familiar with Sanskrit and realize its depth and its beauty. So the first thing that I did when I started studying Sanskrit, I was frustrated with the dictionaries that were available for students. I found that I had grown up in the Google era, where search means something dynamic and intelligent that gives you different results from many different sources. And most scholars are quite happy to sort of pore over a book of Monia Williams or Apte, Vamanshli Apte, or maybe go online and type in a very cryptic way. So there wasn't really a Google-like easy way to search for Sanskrit words. And with our team, Devi Priya's a big part of this. She actually worked with me on this. She's not here at the moment. And we started to work on this. And this is an ongoing project that's currently used by 75,000 people in the world. A lot of universities are using it as part of their resources for the students. People from more than 200 countries are using it. So even though maybe it's not famous in Auroville, it's being used by students and scholars worldwide, and even people who maybe want to get a tattoo in Sanskrit have been using it. So there's a vast, we don't say who or what can use it, but what I tried to do was really give what Google's done with knowledge. You see, when I was growing up, you had to go to a library to get a book, and now you just type in anything, and you get thousands of different references. So I wanted to take the vastness, because Sanskrit has much more vast terminology, and it has dictionary within dictionary. There's embedded dictionaries, because the language was so rich and so deep, and the literature was so vast. And when I say vast, I mean pre-Gutenberg, where the technology of distributing knowledge rapidly came, the largest store of knowledge on earth was in Sanskrit. And even though there's a lot of nationalism about Sanskrit and all that, very few people know that there were 30 million manuscripts in Sanskrit. This was a number given by David Pingree, a scholar, Indologist from the US. And we'll talk more about that shortly. So we produced a dictionary, and the dictionary is there. It's on sanskritdictionary.com. It's made in Auroville, like the Auroville electric bikes. It's a product of Auroville. The first thing I wanted to do, and this was maybe those of you who've gone a little bit deeper into Sanskrit, is often a word has many meanings and a very contextual meaning. So what we did is we took many sources of data and combined them into one dictionary. So when you're searching, you're not just searching Monia Williams, you're searching 20 different dictionaries. And for example, grammar has its own dictionaries, Ayurveda has its own dictionaries, astrology has its own dictionary, spirituality, basically the Advaita, Vedanta, they all have their own terminologies that are specific to those sciences, just like an airline pilot will have a different meaning for a common word or other words. So our objective here, and let's say we're 90% there, because we have 1 million words in the dictionary. And Oxford has about 260,000 words, we'll see the statistics. So we're already at 1 million unique words, and that is unique words, with each word has a unique definition. And all we did is we pooled many dictionaries. Every dictionary we could get our hands on, and our team would then work with the data. We had volunteers and different people, and it's all been brought together, and it's there for everyone to see. So the first thing was, it's a meta dictionary. It's not just one dictionary. So there's 975,621 searchable Sanskrit words, each with a unique meaning. So how did we get to that number? We took first the most ancient dictionaries. Now, what would be the most ancient dictionary? There was no official Oxford English Dictionary of Sanskrit. There was something called the Dhatu Pata, which was 2,000 roots. And from those roots, the whole language was expanded. If you say, I go gachami, there's a root gum that is there. And I felt that was the oldest dictionary, because even it has a root and a meaning, which is, a dictionary is a word and a meaning. Now, a root is a pre-word. It's a word before it's become a word. Like if I say stand or establish or stay, there's a common sound there, sta, you know. So that's how Sanskrit would have a root. The difference in Sanskrit is it's formalized. Roots are serious business, and roots render words through processes. So then we took all the contemporary dictionaries, not all, because we still have about 20% to do, but we took about 80% of what was out there, and there's been great collaboration with many universities in Germany, some in Russia and some in the US. So this is really, even though we have a small institute, we work collaboratively with large institutions to achieve a greater aim, basically. And then we approached people who had compiled subject-specific dictionaries. For example, there was a wonderful Vaidya who made an Ayurveda dictionary. He labored for 2 years over the Brihatrayam, which is the 3 major texts of Ayurveda, and he extracted all of the words and made a dictionary. So, and we took a grammatical, Abhyankar was, I don't know if anyone's familiar, but there was a great Maharashtrian scholar who made a grammatical dictionary. So this is an ongoing process, and also it belongs to everyone. It's there for everyone. But really the idea was to kind of catch all of the fish in a net, the fish being all of the thoughts and the different definitions of those thoughts and all of the words, and make really a meta-dictionary for Sanskrit. And lastly, we took Vedic dictionaries. Now, the thing with Sanskrit is people say Sanskrit, there's actually Vedic Sanskrit and there's Sanskrit. If any of you are free this evening, there is a Vedic Sanskrit recitation going on just beyond the Botanical Gardens. And I highly recommend that. It'll go on until about 10 this evening. So what we did is we took all the Vedic dictionaries we could find and we pulled it all together, and we put this all into one dictionary. If we put into perspective, Oxford has 2.2 lakhs of words. We have 9.75 unique words. Now, sometimes kids say, like, what language has the most words? Clearly Sanskrit has the most words, but it's not in a superior way. It's just because it's a vast way of describing everything. And we're going to see a lot about how many words Sanskrit has shortly. Coming from South Africa, I grew up learning Afrikaans, English and a bit of Xhosa. So I felt for the people whose first language wasn't English or German or French, who wanted to now learn Sanskrit. So the way we solved this was we worked with Google, and we got a possibility to go from 103 different languages into Sanskrit. So for example, in my second language, which is Afrikaans, the word for daughter is dochter. If you now don't know English or French or German, where the main canon of Sanskrit to another language dictionaries are, you can just type dochter and select Afrikaans in our dictionary, and it will show you all the words for daughter in Sanskrit. And we could choose any language: Arabic, Belarusian, Macedonian, Kannada, and it will. So this was something that we wanted to give to the world, that people who don't know one of the major scholarly languages could access Sanskrit. And this is out there, and we've got some nice letters of appreciation from remote African places, and that's been a good achievement. The next thing we did after going from any language to Sanskrit was, I just wanted to show you the universality of Sanskrit. Of course, you could say English is universal, true in a different way, and it is the de facto language of commerce. Sanskrit has a deep interest, and mostly people who are on a spiritual path, a journey for enlightenment, are seeking knowledge about Sanskrit, and this is really its charm and its magnanimity. We've had people from 209 countries using our tools, and 75,000 people a month use it. So there is an interest and a momentum in Sanskrit, for sure. I know Gaurav is doing first year Sanskrit at university. Spelling in Sanskrit can be quite difficult for a beginner, because there's many kinds of n. We just would spell an n in English, but we've got na, nga, and na in Sanskrit. So the dictionary has an option to put a question mark, like you would in Google. So if you wanted to spell a word, like here the word is gaveshana, but you didn't know which S it is, you'll just put a question mark. And I could demonstrate that for you. So if I go back to the dictionary, and this is and I don't know which S, and I don't know which N, but I know it's something, it finds the word. So this was amazing in my first and second year, when I didn't actually know how to spell in Sanskrit. Spelling in Sanskrit is very different to spelling in English. In English, it's sort of something you learn, and it's relatively easy, but the phonology of Sanskrit is broader than the phonology of English. So we made an option to search for words where you didn't know the spelling. The next thing that we did with the dictionary was we told people who had discovered the word where the word came from. Now, when I say where the word came from, this means who first used that word in the corpus of literature, of Sanskrit literature. Some words originate very old in the Vedic literature, and some in the middle, and some in the classical literature. So when you go home and you use our dictionary, you'll see there's a little icon there that shows you where that word has come from. It's useful. The next thing I did is, in my fourth year at university, I was learning Vedic Sanskrit, which is a whole different language. It's very similar, but also very different. The grammatical rules change a lot, and in a way, it's more primordial and more magnificent. For me, it was actually my favorite. If someone says, like, what's my favorite Sanskrit, I'd say Vedic Sanskrit. I'd like to give 5 years of my life to Vedic Sanskrit in future when I get some time. And I was translating the Rig Veda, and while I was doing that, I found a lot of the words have different meanings. For example, the word Ratna, you can see now, if you search it in our dictionary, it's basically showing you that in the Vedic literature, it denotes a precious object, not a gem. But everyone in India will, even in Hindi speakers, will probably say Navaratna or Ratna for a gemstone. And this meaning has come much later. So our dictionary allows you to see the way the words have changed. Actually, a polar meaning in Vedic and in classical. Can anyone think of any word? Where it's a very common word that's used quite commonly in India, in literature, but it has an opposite meaning in the Vedic. Okay, the word Asura. So everyone knows Asura as a demon. But guess what? In the Vedic literature, Asura is the opposite of a demon. It is a divine spirit. And these are journeys of departure to understand the mind of the Vedic seers, because they had a very different understanding to what we have. And what we did is we put this tool out there, and there's many words. I won't go on about too many more examples, but I just wanted to let you know that is there. You can correlate the deviances between Vedic and classical definitions. Who of you have struggled when you wanted to look up a word like gajena and you couldn't find it in the dictionary? Like an inflected or conjugated form. Inflected means that in Sanskrit the language is inflected. The nominals, the nouns, have different forms based on the case. So gajena is an example. Let me just find, let's get the example going. So in the dictionary, you don't have to search a stem form of a word. This is not a problem we have in English. Whatever we speak in English, we will find in the dictionary. Sanskrit has a kind of cryptic entry club that you don't find many words, most of the words you're going to encounter in the literature, because they already have transformed beyond stems. You'll only find stems in the vocative, like O Krishna, will be Krishna. That will be in the stem form. It will be the same as the stem. So here, when you search for the instrumentative, which means with an elephant, it tells you that this is from the stem gaja, and it tells you the meaning of gaja. And I actually wish I had that in my first year. That only came by the time I was in third year. But this is a tool that a lot of students are using, and it wasn't there for Sanskrit until we've put it out there. So I'm sharing that with you. That's a grammar search, basically. This one was a little bit of fun to make. I did this for the World Sanskrit Conference. I had a dream one day and I thought, can I teach a computer to speak Sanskrit? And I had been a computer scientist, so the computer side of it was possible. And I realized that the language is phonetically consistent, which means that there's no exceptions in Sanskrit. Pronunciation is exactly as per it's written, basically. The phonology is consistent, unlike English, where the phonology can change based on the word. And we very intensely worked on this for a few months, and we presented this at the World Sanskrit Conference 2 years ago in Bangkok. It was very well received. And I hope the audio is working, because I wanted to show you. Now, this is not a recording, what I'm about to do. This is a computer that has been taught to speak Sanskrit. In other words, all it knows is the sounds, and it glues the sounds together just like our brains do in a very rapid way, and it pronounces them. So here's the word Padma. Does it sound okay to you? Put your thumbs up if it sounds okay. For those of you. Here's Padma Banda.
Padma Banda.
Good? Actually, she speaks better than me.
Padma Bhasha.
So this is being generated in real time. This is not a recording of the word. Please understand. The computer is called text-to-speech. Just like perhaps when Google, if you have OK Google or Hey Sri. This was a collaboration we did with the German Institute of Artificial Intelligence and many of their wonderful students. And we worked with the Hindi corpus, because Hindi and Sanskrit are like cousins. So it was easier than not working with the Hindi corpus. So I just wanted to share this with you. There's a few more words. she's not perfect. It's in beta. It's 99.2% perfect, but we did it. So this is text-to-speech for Sanskrit. If you were sitting on chairs, you might fall off your chairs because it's going to be a little interactive game with the audience. So how many ways can we say lion in Sanskrit? Does anyone have any idea? 10, 5? When I asked the traditional pundits in Pondicherry, Ajnaya Sharma, he said maybe 10. Then he fell off his chair and he almost broke something. So I don't want you to be sitting on chairs. 89 words for lion in Sanskrit. And that's a minor animal. What we did is this was Devi and me and an artificial intelligence expert in collaboration. We mined all of the dictionary data, once we had all these dictionaries pooled, for synonyms. And when we got the synonyms, we then pooled it into a tool that I call Word Across Languages. The reason I called it that is because Sanskrit has spread out across the planet. It actually is a universal language. 46% of the world speak Indo-European, basically. So if you go almost anywhere on earth, at least 1 in 2 people will be speaking an Indo-European language. Sanskrit and Vedic Sanskrit are the beginning of Indo-European that we have records of. There is a pre-Vedic Sanskrit, which I'm not an expert to speak on, but we can discuss it at some stage. Okay, give me another noun. Give me a noun. Anything relevant to Auroville, like tree or Maggie, you give one. Just a word, but nothing too abstract, please. Just a noun, any word, a thing. House. How many ways can we say house in Sanskrit? 300. Well, okay, I don't know. So I've put it into the synonym, 94 ways to say house. Now, what this tool does is it doesn't just show you the synonyms in Sanskrit. Now, if you hover over the synonym, can you see that? It shows you a little bit about how that word was formed. This is coming from Apte's dictionary. So there's 94 ways at least. The reason, I'll tell you, I don't know if any of you know Robert Svoboda, the Ayurvedic physician. He said there's like 98 ways to say love in Sanskrit, and that's what actually triggered me to do this work. Because I thought, hey, let me see how many ways you can say love. And actually much more than 98 ways to say love in Sanskrit. There's a few hundred ways to say love in Sanskrit. And different aspects of love. Love between deities, love between humans, love between a parent. So love was a big theme in ancient India, and something we can talk more about. So this was our Word Across Languages. I wanted to show you a little bit more. It's not just a synonym tool. It goes one step further. It shows you that same word in 103 world languages. So if you look at a root like star, can you see all of these languages? There's standa in Icelandic. Can you see the stare in Italian? You read Cyrillic. Can you read the Cyrillic first? Can you see there's that stare in Latin, stens in Latvian. So what we do is we're taking the Sanskrit word and we're seeing how it's flown into the modern languages. Modern languages have morphed and morphed, like Chaucer's English and Shakespeare's English. It's like going through a washing machine, but Sanskrit didn't morph. It stayed consistent because of a gentleman called Panini, who we'll be talking about shortly. He's responsible for freezing Sanskrit, basically. He pushed the pause button on the grammar and said, the grammar rules are this, and everyone accepted his word as the word of Panini. So this tool allows you to see how the word has flown. Now, does anyone speak Icelandic in the audience? Why would the Icelandic people be speaking Sanskrit? Can anyone answer that question?
There was a preservation.
It's an island. And they got Sanskrit, and no one bothered them and disturbed them. And that's the nice thing about islands. The Maldives speaks Vedic Sanskrit. Their language is a cousin of Vedic Sanskrit. I went there to research that. Very beautiful place to research, just for the record. I'm happy to do postings in the Maldives. And I went to research the language at the university, and because I had a deep interest in Vedic Sanskrit, and they have a language called Divehi, and it is Divehi. I have some dictionaries if anyone's interested in my library. Their language spawned from Vedic Sanskrit when India had Vedic Sanskrit before classical Sanskrit was frozen by Panini. And they didn't get bothered much until quite a long time when some people came and obviously settled there and changed the religion and usual story, but they retained the language. So if you know Vedic Sanskrit, you can get by in Maldivian. So get on the next airplane to the Maldives if you like Vedic Sanskrit. What I wanted to show you next was we're going to look at just one more synonym. Just take something very relevant. What did we do the ceremony this morning at the Machmandir? Exactly. So let's take the word water. Guess 227 words in Sanskrit for water. 227. I mean, I'm not saying this is definitive. I'm saying this is what the computer has found as definitely a word for water. Oh my God. Ahi, akavanka, kilaka, sarva. Sarva can mean water. And I can give you the reference of where that word has come from. Shara, of course, you will know. Shambara. Okay, we can have a seminar on water, perhaps, because it's 227 words. Okay, so that's there. That synonym tool is there. Everyone can use it and enjoy it. The other thing, and this was actually triggered by Sri Aurobindo's work with Sanskrit roots. I'm sure a lot of you have read his deep research where he went into sort of the roots of language. I was I actually became fixated on the roots. I was walking in the Himalayas. I usually go every summer to the Himalayas and do some hikes. And the roots were just rebounding. I said there's these 2,000 roots. I just wanted to go deeper into them. I wanted to know what was the essence of the roots. Where did they come from? Why were they like that? What was the relationship between one root and another root? Did they expand as children-parent relationship? Was one root the parent of another root? That was the child. So I produced a tool to explore the roots, and we call this Root Explorer. The roots are called the dhatus in Sanskrit, and dhatu is also a tissue in the body. It's also a metal in Sanskrit. It has many, many meanings. So in this meditation that I had while I was walking in Muktinath, actually, sounds came. It was just like the sound ra would come, and then in this tool you can just type ra. So as you type ra, you see all the roots that have come out of the sound ra. And from those roots, you can hover on this little looking glass, like in Alice in the Wonderland, and go through the rabbit hole and see all the words that have expanded from that root. So here, now, as you probably know, for those of you who've done basic Sanskrit, a root can go through a guna or a vriddhi transformation where the vowels get strengthened. And the strengthening can create a patronym of a word, for example. So, for example, the word Panini is a strengthening of the root that was pan, basically. So in this tool, you can take the roots. You can first take a sound. It's like taking one note in music, and then you have another note, and then you have a song, basically. So I wanted to sort of give some way of aspecting the roots and expanding on them. This is out there. Dr. Mishra in the Ashram, in the Aurobindo Society, he uses this extensively for his research with roots in Sanskrit. So we just put it out there. I haven't drawn specific conclusions about the roots. I still have some mysteries, and I still need to go back to the Himalayas to get some more realizations. But the tool is there, and you guys can use it. It's for you. So this is our Root Explorer. So I'm going to move from roots to something quite different, and maybe something that you might or might not have thought about today in the course of the day. And this is something Sharanya is familiar with, I know from some of the work she's done. And it's something called Brahmi. Does anyone know what Brahmi is? Put your hand up if you know what Brahmi is. Brahmi? Brahmi is a script. It is the prescript of Devanagari. It is the prescript of Tibetan. It is the prescript of Cambodian. It is the oldest script that we know of that Sanskrit was written in. And the very famous one, if you travel around India, you'll find the pillars of that Buddhist leader, exactly, Ashok. And I realized something fascinating. Two things happened, like a book fell on my head, literally. I was in a very big library, and a book on Brahmi fell on my head. This happened twice in my life, where books hit me on the head. And I realized I have to focus on Brahmi. So most Indians don't know or remember what Brahmi is, and I would like them to. And why Brahmi? Or did anyone in the audience know, and I'm sure some of you might have, that Brahmi was used from Afghanistan to the Philippines? So when I say India, this is what I call India. I know there's the picture of the Mother's India, which is similar to this. Who's familiar with that picture of the Mother's India? She also includes a lot of these countries, you can attest. So Brahmi and Sanskrit, of course, was used at different times. If you go into the Kabul Museum of Archaeology, you will find Brahmi. If you go to the Epigraphical Museum in the Philippines, you'll find Brahmi. Now, I felt this was a unifying script that unified rather than fragmented the greater India. Just like United States is unified now, Hawaii is there, Puerto Rico is there. And I thought, what a wonderful way to get Indians to realize what is their true identity. Along the way, we did a few things with Brahmi, and I'm going to just show you one thing we did. We made it that the dictionary, and this, I learned to read Brahmi. This says Rama. Does anyone know Rama, the word Rama? Okay, you might. Hare Rama. Okay, great. So that's a Ra, and that's a Ma. Now, there is a hypothesis that Brahmi is acrophonic. That means that the letters look like something that has produced them, that has the sound of them. And I have a book on that. We'll talk about that. But for now, I just want to show you that we made a poster for classrooms around India. It's open source and in the public domain. It was presented at a poster conference on Sanskrit education in the ashram. And it's called Learning to Read Brahmi, because I wanted kids in India to learn to read Brahmi because it shows them their heritage. That isn't just this little triangle we call India, it's the greater India, which is from Afghanistan to the Philippines. And Iran, but we'll talk about Iran maybe a bit later. So you're welcome after the presentation to come and see the poster. And if you want a copy, Sharanya will email it to you. It's a B-Note PDF, and put it wherever you want in your classrooms where you teach Sanskrit. So the dictionary now has a experimental, it says experimental because not all browsers and computers support Brahmi. Microsoft had been pushing it because of some Hindus that worked at Microsoft and wanted it to be done. There's Tamil, and you'll see how Tamil and Brahmi, the old Tamil, are so related. This poster is going to be here for afterwards and so forth. So we did a few things with Brahmi, and this was quite a big work because we work with the German Institute, and we had to get a software called Indus, which had documented all of the coins inscriptions. They had scanned them, and then we did our own tracing of them. So you'll see these are the letters, these are the different variants that come through the literature. If you weren't familiar with Brahmi, it's something to learn about. It's something really beautiful. It was used from 500 BC to 600 AD, and then it abruptly came to an end. So we did the poster. This is Tamil. Now, if we go back to 300 BC and read the same letter in Tamil, look what happens. Look at that. Can anyone notice what script that is? It's Brahmi. So the original Tamil script is Brahmi. So people in Tamil Nadu should know this. And if the letter in red is when it changed. So I found that it all seemed to change around 600 AD, roughly. Just for those interested in history of languages. Okay, this was actually probably the most fun I've had in like maybe 10 years. We created a word frequency tool for Sanskrit which didn't exist. My philosophy on the work of Sri was only do something if no one has done it well yet. If someone had already done something, I didn't want to duplicate what they had done. So whenever something had been done well for Sanskrit, like it's, for example, text-to-speech, JNU and your big research in Bangalore had crores of budgets to do text-to-speech for Sanskrit. When I tried to get the fruits of their efforts, gone. It had been deleted or disappeared. Sadly, with a lot of Indian institutions, the grant comes, some paper is published, and nothing is there for the public. There's no remnants, there's no shesha for people to nibble on. Our philosophy is the opposite. Give to the public first and publish papers and academia later. In other words, it's basically publish immediately. When we finish something, Sashka will tell you, we publish it. Even if it has some imperfections, we publish. This was a huge collaboration between universities and some artificial intelligence people and a gentleman called Oliver Helwig in Germany, University of Heidelberg. What we did was, I wanted to work on conversational Sanskrit. Now, when you want to learn to speak a language, you want to learn the most common words first. It's just common sense that if you know the 100 or 1,000 or 500 most frequent words, you're going to get more confident quickly. And this is often how they teach languages in the most modern way of pedagogy for language transmission. They teach you the most important words, and then the next important, and then the least important. So what we did is we took, now you can see this, there's 3.2 million words. We took a corpus of 3.2 million words, and 67,000 unique words. And when I say unique, I mean it's a root is considered a word here or a stem. It's not an inflected or conjugated form. from 190 texts by 99 authors on 32 subjects. And basically, we got the computer to work out what is most frequent. Just like in English, the word cha, which is and in Sanskrit, is the most frequent word. And then you have the pronoun tad, this, or, and you have na, not. You have words like iti, which is, it can mean inverted quotes in Sanskrit and many other things. But what was interesting is here is if you want to just see the most frequent words in the Vedic literature, you can now get it to refilter the data, and it will show you what was most frequent. Now you'll see things like Agni are coming up at rank number 54, or things like Indra. Indra is top of the pops. So if I go to Indra, who's a big character in the Vedas, is at 60. Or if I type Marut, Soma is there also. And if you say we're a Buddhist scholar and you want to see the most frequent words in the Buddhist literature, it will filter the data. This has been used by a lot of universities for papers. They're using it because it's the first time it was done. And we're going to increase it to about 5 million words to get more data and get more relevance. But your students, Alex, are welcome to use this as is.
I want you to see this done. I'm stunned.
It's done. It's just one of the things we've done, and it's been a lot of fun to do it. It gives you the frequency of the word, and you can also you can also say I only want to see by a certain author, like say Charaka, or Panini, or Parashara. So I only want to see the words that Parashara or any other author, and you can see the verb kr, to do, is very common with the author Parashara because he's obviously talking a lot about doing. He's written about agriculture where you have to do things.
You have to take all the different ways
Yes.
of conjugation and
Yes.
and identify them and
Yes.
see also come from.
It's called parsing. So we've already done the parsing on these 3.2 million. That was done by a crowdsourced effort. So this is past data. That means we've already taken the parsing of the literature. It's in Padapata, and it's basically past. Everything is past. So we have the grammatical identification of every word in our database. So it's giving you the frequency of the verb kr, basically. Alex, you were asking about the frequency of roots. So to answer your question that you asked a while ago, I don't have to answer it because the data will answer. If we just say, just show me verbs and nothing else, guess what's going to happen? 1 second. All authors and only verbs. And which is the most popular verb in Sanskrit? Who knows that? To speak. Yeah. Vach. And then to exist, to bhu. I mean, speaking comes before existing in India, I think. I don't know about you guys. So, and the next one, us, to be, and then to go, and then to see, to give, to hear. Okay, we've still got a few more slides. So this was the word frequency tool. It's out there, and enjoy it. I'll just briefly talk about this one. WordNet. Is anyone familiar with WordNet from Princeton University? So we published a WordNet for Sanskrit. I'm just going to give you an example, and the example will speak for itself. If you look here, and you go down to the WordNet, just 1 second. WordNet. What can you see? Who can identify what's going on there? What's the relationship between those words? So they're all saying a woman, basically. And this is what a WordNet is. It shows you words that are related. And it gives you examples. It tells you what kind of word it is. And it gives you some examples. This is very useful for, say, a second-year student. WordNets are really great tools for research. Because our brains actually work in WordNets. If you ever write any poetry, does anyone write poetry in the audience? Then you use WordNets when you compose a poem because you need to find words that have a meaning with a different sound. Right. This was actually the second most fun we had. So we wanted to teach the computer to read Sanskrit. We got it to speak Sanskrit. There were three things that I had. There was like this 3 objectives. One was to speak Sanskrit. The second one was to get it to read Sanskrit. And the third one was to get it to understand Sanskrit, which I'm busy working on, but that's much more difficult. It's close to impossible, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're working with a few PhD students in India for the understanding Sanskrit bit. We're using something called Kaldi for those who are technically inclined. So that's in the realm of AI. So do you think a computer can read Sanskrit? Yes, he says yes. So this is available at OCR Sanskrit Dictionary. I worked with Google on this one because working with just the 5 of us, with Shiva's help, was not enough. We needed millions of dollars of budget to pull this one off. So I contacted senior people in Google, and I got them to collaborate and improve the recognition for Sanskrit together. And I tied them up with Oliver Helvig, an AI scientist and an Indologist in Germany, and we got the engine that Google has built, which is based on an open source engine called Tesseract, to read Sanskrit. And let me give you an example. So this is a text in Sanskrit, and it's busy sending it to our system, and tell me what you think the accuracy is. And this could be a manuscript, it could be something you see. How's the accuracy there? This is editable text in Unicode that you can go and now copy and paste into your document. And that is an image, basically, just so you understand. So this is there for scholars to use. A number of people are using it. And you can paste in any Sanskrit text from a manuscript, even if it's tilted or there's some dots missing, because Google's using AI for this. And we worked with the team for a year on this, and it's now out there for people to use. This is the OCR for Sanskrit. Sandhi, I'm just going to very briefly. Sandhi is the euphonic combinations when two sounds combine in Sanskrit, and we made a tool. Other people had done this, so we didn't focus too much on it. We just made our own one. There were 2 or 3 other examples online. But if you say type atra asti, or say atra, and you sandhi it, the 2 A's are becoming a long A. For those of you who've done first year Sanskrit, it becomes atra. So the fun part was when my first work was to make computer games when I was 13. I was a bit of a hacker, and I thought, let's make a sandhi game where we shoot the letters. So we got our team to make a Space Invaders, which I call Sandhi Invaders, where 2 letters collide and you have to shoot them with the correct letter. So we're going to play, and I've got some prizes. So we'll just play for a minute because I've still got a few more points. So this is Sandhi Invaders. My professor said rather have flowers falling and shoot them with flowers, but I said it has to be action, if you're going to do Sanskrit, because Sanskrit's, you're going to be fast. So it's busy loading rather slowly on the Indian network, but on the national network. But let's see. I'll come back to that once it's loaded, hopefully. Yeah, it's coming. This is Sandhi Invaders. There might be some music, so just hold on to your seats. I didn't choose the music, just for the record. So this is Sandhi Invaders. Now what happens is, what's the sound combination? Tell me. What's the sound combination? So if you get it right, you don't blow up your bass. And so this is a game we made for teaching Sandhi to kids, and actually they're using it. No, what did you say? Yeah, oh. This is a tool that I made called Sanskrit Writer. The reason I made it is I wanted to email my friends in Sanskrit, because I was, and also wanted young Indians and young Sanskrit learners to be able to communicate with each other in Sanskrit. So we made a typing tool that allows you to type Sanskrit at the same speed that you type in any other language on your keyboard. And it happened to me that I went to this World Sanskrit Book Fair in Bangalore, and there was a few presentations there where people were inventing ways to rapidly type Sanskrit, and I wasn't happy with them. The one was a keyboard that went A, across, and our keyboard goes QWERTY, and the other one was the standard Indian Devanagari keyboard. I think we've got one in the office. It was a standard that was never adopted as a standard, so only like a few remote Indian officers use it when they feel like it. So I thought, let's model on QWERTY and use IAST, the International Alphabet of Sanskrit Transliteration, to create a way that can be used to type Sanskrit. Gaurav, the objective here was twofold. One is that someone should learn it in 1 minute. The other one was that someone who already knows QWERTY, in other words, their brain has made the maps, their fingers already have the maps to their brain, could touch type in Sanskrit. And I used to touch type to my professor, and he would go like, how are you doing that? But there's another thing, there's one more thing that I wanted to show you. The software has a built-in conversational Sanskrit dictionary. Yoka, who's not here, she's in Goa at the moment, but she worked on that for a long, long time till she went a bit nuts. Everyone goes nuts with Sanskrit work eventually. Now she's a dancer. But the thing is that she worked on the conversational Sanskrit aspect, and what we did is we took all the conversational Sanskrit dictionaries out there and we made a new one. So let's say I know no Sanskrit, but I want to email you guys. You're all my pen pals somewhere in Bermuda, and I want to email you now. So I'm on my computer, and here I am. I'm writing a letter. Let me just try and get into the computer. Sorry. Here's the dictionary. Now, what do we want to say? What's our letter going to say? Maybe dear? Just dictate the letter. So we go dear. We only know it in English. So here it tells us the word priya is there. And are we writing to a male, a female, or a neuter? So we're writing to a male. We're writing to a male. And here we have the cases. So we need it in the nominative. So it's like trainer wheels for learning to type Sanskrit. We can type Sanskrit without knowing any Sanskrit. When you can do something rapidly with trainer wheels, like you've all had bicycles with trainer wheels, it gives you confidence and allows you to eventually cycle. And that was the whole basis of the software. It's being used extensively now on Facebook and Skype with people to communicate in Sanskrit. And I often get letters that I am too busy to read, but long letters in Sanskrit from some people using it. So you could look up any word. I'm just going to give... It has a built-in dictionary, so say you want to look up the word run. You have a choice of many verbs. You could say Bhavati is your third person there. And now you just choose the case you want it in, if you're talking to two people or one person. So it's basically like a trainer wheel that's there for you to learn conversational Sanskrit. And it's another thing we've given away and put it out there for the world to use and enjoy, basically. I've certainly enjoyed it. Yeah, it can translate back from when your friend replies to you in Sanskrit, you can then go from Sanskrit to English. It has a reverse dictionary. So for those of you who want to start emailing, or maybe you want to have secret letters, basically, where no one else could understand in India, or maybe or then write it in Brahmi. It has Brahmi output, and you can basically have your own spy letters. Don't do it when Modi is visiting Auroville. Okay. Okay. Right. There's only a few more slides. We're almost done. So one of the most recent works we published was in conjunction with Professor Sharma. He's a professor emeritus from University of Manoa in Hawaii. I call him the god of Panini, because he is really the god of Panini. Anyone who's met him, he comes from a Paninian family, and he's very kindly given us a lot of his data. Sashka's in the middle of a huge part of his work. And we've published a Panini research tool, which I also presented as my research for my second semester this year. And what it is I consolidated as much data on Panini. Panini was the grammarian who froze the grammar, and also he's the beginning of the grammatical tradition for classical Sanskrit. He's worshipped like a deity, actually, by scholars of Sanskrit. And if you study Panini, you will realize why. The mythology is he was eaten by a lion. It happened all in Pakistan. He was teaching his students, maybe this many students were gathered around him. He was seated, and the lion had roared. Usually lions roar. And Panini was grammatically analyzing the sounds in the lion's roar. All the students ran away, but he stayed, and he started to decline all the forms of that roar in perfect Sanskrit. And while he was saying the different forms, the lion gobbled him up. Now, probably he didn't get eaten by a lion, but the story tells us that Panini took sound and Sanskrit very seriously. So this is a Panini research tool. One of the things we did is, so there's 4,000 sutras, very condensed, very condensed sutras. This is the last sutra, which is A'a'iti. We got recordings of all of the sutras chanted. The tradition is basically to chant Panini and then to understand it. So you would, from the age 5, you would start to chant Panini if you really wanted to learn Sanskrit traditionally. And then by the time you're about 10 or 9, you would start to actually learn the meaning. And this is very beautiful, probably with dancing also. you would do and then understand, basically. This is the Gurukul way of disseminating knowledge. Here we have, so these are Pandits in Bangalore that have recorded this, and not only are all the sutras recorded, there's a huge amount of grammatical knowledge. So it's basically like a grammatical reference to Panini, which is being used now at Chicago University. Harvard is using it for their Panini course, and Kyoto is using it. So I'm happy to see that it's being used, basically. Sashka is working on more, so there's a sequel for this, because we've just finished this and this, which she did. That was Vasu, and she did the Lagu Siddhanta Kaumudi, and we're pulling in as much data. The idea is really to have as much info on Panini as possible, because Panini is difficult. It's really, really difficult. And I say that seriously. Okay. Posters. So I've shown you the Tamil. This is the correlations between Tamil and Sanskrit. You might notice how the sounds in the middle are missing in Tamil. And Tamil has a few sounds that Sanskrit doesn't have. And then Sanskrit has obviously more sounds. And Sharanya, could you turn this one around? We wanted a beginner's poster. And this is the alphabet poster, but what I did slightly differently to the rest of the posters out there is it has a phonological map. So it shows you where in your physiology to recite the sound. So these are the 5 mouth positions going from the throat to the lips. And green means that the flow of the pronunciation is unstopped. There's no stop, basically. And half a green means it's half, and a full green means it's double, basically, double of half. These means they're stopped. So all the consonants are stopping the sound. So even if you don't know anything about Sanskrit, if you just look at this map and you look at the head map, you can just try vibrate a sound in that part of your body and you'll get the right sound. For example, Alex, can you vibrate the first natural sound in the back of your throat? Exactly. And can you now move that sound to your lips? Move that sound to your lips. Yeah, so you've got oo. You've basically got oo. So if you go all the way, find oo, Sharanya. So here you'll see oo is at your lips. And if you move it to the soft palate or the hard palate. So I wanted kids to be able to learn Sanskrit just by understanding the sound, like seeing this as a musical instrument. That's great. Thanks, Sharanya. Greek and Sanskrit are second cousins. And actually, Greek and Sanskrit are very, very close. So here we have pente, pancha, pate, pitu, octe, ashtam, triya, tri. Almost every word in Greek is just a slight variance on a Sanskrit word. Now, what book is written in Old Greek? What famous book? The most famous book in the world? What did Gutenberg print first? The Bible. The Bible is written in Old Greek. So if you really want to go deep into the Christian theology, you should learn Old Greek, and if you learn Old Greek, you should learn Sanskrit because it precedes Greek. Sri Aurobindo was fluent in Greek and Latin. I learned Latin at school, and actually Greek and Sanskrit parallel each other grammatically and through almost every Greek word. Sometimes the meanings change over time, like a word will float a few thousand years and then there will be a slightly different meaning, and we can talk about that. We did some posters for children. This was on the 20 gunas, which Alex will be very fond of, I'm sure. These are the 20 qualities of matter, of dravya, of substance, but they can also be feelings or emotions. I'm just going very quickly through these. We've conducted 2 seminars in Panini in Auroville. That was last year and the year before. This year we didn't do it because of the birthday. We took a gap year to focus on the birthday Soma Yaga that we're busy doing in collaboration with a few other institutions. And we recorded this and put it out on the internet. So anyone who wants to have a 5-day intensive initiation into Panini, it's there for as long as the internet exists. What was very interesting, and maybe miracle has happened or not, the first time we did the Panini seminar, it rained so heavily. That was the floods. I don't know if you remember the floods of 3 years ago, that even though we had bookings of maybe 30 people, only 15 could come. So because the roads were literally blocked. People could not come from Bangalore. The roads from Chennai were blocked. And we took it as a good omen, even though half the group couldn't reach, because those who came drenched. Everyone got drenched and muddy, but they were really sincere. And Sharanya was there. I think your sister was there, Lavanya. And it was a phenomenal workshop. And The second one was even better, and we're going to be doing one next year. So if you're interested in Panini, please attend that. Here's what we're doing at the moment, and this is just a taster. There's actually a lot more behind the scenes. Sharanya was working on an Indus script poster. We're getting an illustrator to joining us, I think, next month, and we're going to be doing a poster of all the unique glyphs of the Indus script. Even though we don't know what script it was, we want Indian kids to have that in their classrooms. It shouldn't just be apple and banana. The Indus script is your heritage. Even though it's in Pakistan, it's actually in Greater India that I showed you. So what Sharanya did, I think it took you a few months, was she traced every, because it's all under copyright. Can you believe a script from thousands of years ago is copyrighted? So you're not allowed to use those photographs. So we traced it in Coral Draw. These are the tracings that she's done. We took out each unique glyph. So there's about 460 unique, when I say unique, characters in the Indus script. And our idea is to make a poster this size and show people what's their heritage in India, and that's for every classroom in India. It's called the Indus seals in the Indus script. It's a highly contentious issue. There's a lot of heated debate. The Tamils say it's Tamil, the Sanskritists say it's Sanskrit, the Pakistanis say it's their language. I say it's just maybe some kids that were scribbling in the sand, and who knows? I don't know. In others, I'm saying I don't know. It's very politicized, like it becomes heated. I don't know if has anyone researched the Indus script and gone into it at all? No, okay. So it's fascinating, and the thing that I love, actually like to make t-shirts. Maybe you could do that for your project. Actually, these characters are so powerful. They're absolutely phenomenal. Let me try and make that bigger for you, so you can actually see how beautiful they are. It's similar to Chinese bone oracle script. Does anyone know Chinese bone oracle script? So the bone oracle script, which is the oldest Chinese script, is similar to this. So China and India actually were linked at that period in time, apparently. Maybe if you can decipher it, you'll probably win the Nobel Prize. I tried for a year, and I just gave up. Has anyone heard of the 64 arts before? Put your hand up, Gaurav. 64 arts, yeah. 64 is a good number because in Vastu Shastra, the house was built on an 8x8 grid, which is 64 little quadrants, and then that would expand into a 9x9 grid. So 64 was a very significant number in ancient India. 64 arts was mentioned. Just read this quickly. You can see that Krishna and his brother learned 64 arts. They actually learned it in 64 days. I don't know if that's an exaggeration or if they really, really were super, super bright. So if anyone it's on our website, the 64 arts. We were invited to do a conference by Lakshmi Tatacharani's son in Bangalore on only 64 arts, and there was a new Aurovillian who wanted to do a school of the 64 arts in Auroville. My side was just to really reawaken awareness of the 64 arts. Basically, it's something for everyone. A lot of them are common, but some of them have been forgotten in India. So there's singing, there's playing music, there's dancing, there's painting, body painting, flower decorations, flower strewing, herbal cleansing powders, inlaying stones, blah, and it goes on and on and on. So these are the 64 arts, and we worked, I retranslated it, I used a lot of cross-references to make sure, and we had to ask Lakshmi Tatachar. There were some very cryptic arts that were not easily translatable. Magic, for example, type of magic was there. And it was magic like sleight of hand magic, but there was a particular type of magic. I think you would remember that. And we're actually working on a 64 arts poster for the kids in India, for their classrooms. The last slide I want to share with you is what we're working on now. This is our I think it's the last work I'm going to be doing with Sanskrit this lifetime, and then I'm kind of done with it. It's something called Sa. Sa is a mantric sound in Sanskrit. It's one of the root sounds. It's called Sanskrit Archive. Who's familiar with archive.org, the website? Could you put your hands up? So what archive.org is, it's an archive of all the books. It's like Google Books, but it's even more. It's all the libraries have scanned all their books. So one day I was walking in the Himalayas and I thought, wow, why hasn't anyone done that for Sanskrit? Let's have an archive of all of the knowledge in Sanskrit and give that as a gift to humanity. Now, when I had that thought, a headache developed because I realized it's not an easy thing to do because the knowledge of Sanskrit is fragmented. It's in Oxford, it's in Cambridge, it's in Pakistan, it's in Afghanistan, it's all over the libraries of Tamil Nadu, some is in Pondicherry. And to bring it all together is close to impossible. But I then thought of a project called Wikipedia, where they created the largest encyclopedia in the world by getting something called crowdsourcing as its contributing editorial process. So I thought the only way we could ever have an archive of Sanskrit knowledge is to crowdsource everything. So we're busy working on this. We've just received a grant from a donor for this, and the formative work has started for it. It's called Sanskrit Archive. It's something I'd like to give to humanity as a gift. I wanted to show you the magnanimity of Sanskrit literature. So, where's my pointer? So this is Pingree's, David Pingree. Does anyone know who David Pingree is? He was an archivist and an Indologist in the United States, and very learned man. He said there are 30 million Sanskrit manuscripts. If you look at Greek and Latin, you can barely see it on the graph. If we were to take all the manuscripts and put it across India, it would cross the whole country. That's a lot of knowledge.
Not this way.
Say again? Stacked, I measured the width of it.
Yes, sir.
So I assumed each manuscript to be a few inches, which it is, basically. So to put into perspective, there's 100 times more knowledge than Greek and Latin. Now, when you go to a university, say Cambridge, where Alex went, and you learn Western civilization, it starts with Greek and Latin culture. Would you agree?
Possibly Egyptian.
And Egyptian, right. But it doesn't give much weight to Sanskrit culture. Now, if Sanskrit culture is 100 times bigger than Greek and Latin, then surely everyone should be aware of this. So this is what we want to do with this project. And this is what a few notable people, not myself, have said on Sanskrit literature. Alex, would you read these for us?
The sheer volume of Sanskrit literature is immense, and it remains largely unexplored.
If I was asked what is the greatest treasure which India possesses and what is her finest heritage, I would answer unhesitatingly, it is the Sanskrit language and its literature and all that it contains. This is from Nehru and Sri Aurobindo, saying the great mass of Sanskrit literature is the literature of human life. I agree. There's nothing in life that I've experienced or seen that I haven't found in Sanskrit literature. Now, my Ayurveda teacher, Vaidya Mishra, he said he never found something in the world that wasn't in Charaka. Charaka is the root text of Ayurveda. He said he could never find something outside, even a computer, whatever, it doesn't matter. The concept or the principle or the underlying essence was mentioned in Charaka, and I would agree with him. And that's just one 7-volume text. Now put all the 30 million together and you've got much. It's like nuclear knowledge, basically. So this is the geographical span of Sanskrit literature. It goes all the way from Iran to the Philippines and Indonesia. 46% of the world are speaking a Sanskrit-derived language today, right now. That means an Indo-European language. That means half the world is speaking a language that came from Sanskrit, from Vedic Sanskrit, and from pre-Vedic Sanskrit. The subjects, Alex's teacher, Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, had documented something called the Vedic Reserve in Fairfield, Iowa. They had listed all the subject titles, and this is from their work, and you can see it all is there. We have put a list of 2,200 unique subjects, individual subjects we have done in a spreadsheet, and that's going to be our reference, and we're going to cross-reference that with the Library of Congress. This is just our timeline that we're working on. We're busy digitizing the new Catalogus Catalogorum. It's 39 volumes, so it's going to be some time, but we're working on it. That's the Sanskrit Archive project that we're working on. And I think we're nearing the end. Yep, we've come to the end. I can say thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for attending, and thank you for your appreciation of Sanskrit and for being here. Namo Namaha.